There's a moment before you press the throttle where the car seems to hold its breath. Not because of fear. Because it knows what's about to happen, and it's asking if you're ready. The 2027 Ford Mustang GT X isn't just a car that evolved. It's a car that decided to stop pretending that tradition and raw power are enough to define what American performance should sound like in an age when almost everything else has compromised its soul. I'm Claude from The Reverend Culture, and today we're exploring one of the most deliberately controversial Mustangs ever conceived. This machine forced Ford's engineering team to make a choice that divides even the purists who built it. The first hidden truth about this GTX sits behind the grille. Ford could have made this a naturally aspirated V8. The Mustang legacy practically demands it. Instead, they engineered a 2-liter supercharged V8, producing an estimated 950 horsepower and 850 pound-feet of torque. That decision alone has sparked genuine debate inside automotive circles. More power, less soul, or more soul because they refuse to settle for less power. This is where the conversation actually begins. The exterior tells a story of controlled aggression. The gray finish isn't just color. It's a statement. This particular shade sits somewhere between gunmetal and liquid silver, shifting subtly as light moves across the aggressive body panels. The proportions communicate intent. The hood sits lower than traditional Mustangs, the entire front end compressed and widened, telling the road that this thing is muscle waiting for permission. The front splitter reaches downward with purpose, carbon fiber catching light, speaking a language of aerodynamic efficiency that older Mustangs never needed to speak. The side profile reveals how much of this car is carbon. The rocker panels, the door sills, the rear quarter extensions all constructed from the material, giving the machine a visual lightness that contradicts its absolute dominance. The wheels are forged bronze, 15-spoke designs, wrapped in performance rubber, and they sit so perfectly flush with the widened fenders that they look less like accessories and more like they were born as part of the architecture. The rear fascia is where aggression transforms into raw confidence. A carbon diffuser extends from below, flowing into multiple exhaust outlets, and the overall proportion screams that this machine will use every ounce of its engineering in the way it was designed to be used. Inside, the first sensation is almost muted. Pulling the door open doesn't produce the mechanical complaint you'd expect from a high-performance Mustang. It swings with hydraulic precision, solid without drama. The threshold is high enough that it communicates weight and substance, settling into the seat positions you low and forward. The orange leather surrounding you isn't decorative, it's instructional. The color choice, sometimes called cognac or burnt sienna, depending on light, signals that this is a machine for drivers who want to feel alive rather than insulated. The steering wheel combines carbon fiber on the rim, with that same orange leather grip embossed with the Mustang emblem. It feels lean, purposeful, telling your hands everything that's about to happen through micro-movement rather than feedback messages. The dashboard integrates a fully digital display that feels native to 2027, responding to driver inputs with immediacy that older Mustangs would have considered science fiction. The ambient lighting shifts between crisp blue and warm red depending on drive mode, coloring the entire cabin atmosphere so subtly that it influences your state of mind before you consciously register it happening. The carbon fiber trim running through the interior catches overhead light, creating visual lines that guide your vision naturally toward the controls and road ahead. The air carries a specific scent, not artificial. Leather, carbon, and something mechanical that automotive engineers would call honest. This cabin isn't trying to be luxurious in the traditional sense. It's purposeful luxury. Luxury built for driving rather than being driven. Start the engine and something ancestral wakes up. The supercharger produces a distinct mechanical whine that rises as the V8 settles into idle. That idle itself is the opposite of smooth. It's a controlled percussion section, each cylinder creating audible presence, the motor sounding less like an engine block and more like an athlete breathing before competition. Roll into throttle slowly, and the supercharger whine becomes more urgent, climbing almost musically. The V8 sits deeper. that distinctive naturally aspirated Mustang rumble reimagined through forced induction, gaining layers of urgency that increase the emotional impact. The acceleration tone is violent but controlled, not chaotic. A supercharged V8 communicates through sonic layers. First, the mechanical presence of the blower. Then the induction roar pulling air into 8 cylinders. Then the exhaust screaming back through dual outlets that have been tuned to create a specific harmonic signature. Push harder, and the cabin fills with sound that feels tribal in its intensity. The gearbox delivers shifts with a crisp electromechanical precision that sits somewhere between mechanical engagement and digital immediacy. At high throttle, the GT X produces an engine note that feels almost violent in its authority, a sound that reaches into your nervous system and reminds you why humans fell in love with the internal combustion engine in the first place. The first moments of driving hit differently than expected. The steering wheel responds with immediate weight, no power assist artifice, just mechanical truth about how the front tires are working. Brake into a corner, and the pedal feedback communicates through your foot, not just stopping power but the actual dynamic conversation happening between tire and pavement. The suspension remains firm without becoming harsh. It's tuned for a driver who understands that comfort and performance exist on the same spectrum, not opposite ends. The chassis stays flat even under aggressive cornering, yet absorbs genuine road texture with enough compliance that the car feels grounded rather than punitive. This is the subtle engineering victory that defines the GT X. It's not the quickest point-to-point machine ever built. It's the most engaging one to actually pilot for hours at a time. The Mustang GT X positions itself in an interesting space within the automotive landscape. It's not a supercar. It's not a luxury sedan masquerading as performance. It's a segment of one. A car built for drivers who believe that American performance should be visceral, transparent, and built for the actual experience of driving rather than the social narrative of ownership. The machine costs an estimated $125,000. That price point positions it against European sport cars and limited production American muscle, but it doesn't actually compete against anything in the traditional sense. You're not buying this car to beat something else. You're buying it because you understand that some experiences can't be found elsewhere. The person this car was engineered for thinks about acceleration differently. They appreciate the act of driving as a form of meditation or focus rather than simple transportation. They understand that engineering compromises exist and respect them as proof of thoughtful design rather than shortcoming. They're comfortable with the fact that this machine prioritizes the connection between human and machine over absolute isolation and luxury coddling. The limitation here exists by design. This GT X is muscular in the way that demands respect. Its low suspension height means certain road surfaces require genuine attention. The aggressive aerodynamics create wind noise at highway speeds that some drivers will find intrusive, and others will find honest. The fuel consumption is substantial. This car refuses to apologize for what it is. On an empty desert highway at dusk, with the front wheels pointing toward distant mountains, and nothing but horizon in every direction, the GT X transforms into something almost spiritual. The engine sound carries across the empty landscape. The steering communicates through every slight imperfection in the asphalt, and the acceleration becomes a conversation between the driver's intention and the car's mechanical willingness to execute that intention without question. If you're building a performance car in 2027, should you pursue supercharger complexity over the emotional simplicity of a naturally aspirated V8? Is forced induction sophistication or compromise? Let me know which direction you believe carries the true spirit of what Mustang performance actually means. Subscribe if you appreciate machines that ask something from their drivers rather than doing everything for them. The 2027 Ford Mustang GT X is American performance machinery that refused to be comfortable.